Hello and welcome back to From the Be-All End. I'm Simon Evans and with me is Paul Woodhouse and Chris Bowden. Chris Bowden surviving, the only surviving member of last week's team in this strict squad rotation we have going on at From the Be-All End. But welcome back, Woody. Have you located your VR headset, Woody, to get ready for Saturday's extravaganza?
I've located every other VR headset that I've got apart from the one that I need. So I am still currently turning this house upside down and you can't really tell the difference. But no, by hook or by crook, I'll find it. Don't you worry.
The lengths we go to deliver for our audience, dusting it off. Get it found. People are waiting for this review.
I know, there's a lot of pressure on.
I suspect Reza will probably be quite relieved if you don't find it. Right. We've had some more signings. We're still waiting for Armando Broja to enter the building. Unless he's entered the building and we're just holding off an announcement for some strategic reason. But all the indications are that Broja is signing. Nothing to suggest otherwise. But we have two signings since we were last with you. And the big one, really, Lesley Ugochukwu from Chelsea, 21-year-old French midfielder. Broke through at his hometown club of Reims, signed for Chelsea 2023 on a 7-year contract. Reported to be worth a £23 million transfer fee at that time. Made 15 appearances for Chelsea. Spent last season on loan at Southampton. 31 appearances there. He's joined the Clarets for something north of 20 million, according to the reports. Looks a strong physical presence in midfield, Chris. Yeah, what do we know about him and what do we think about him?
Well, I caught him a couple of times for Southampton, and he's this very sort of, if you were to come up with the typical modern French midfielder, a la Pogba, the sort of Tchouaméni, Camavinga type, and rangy, protects the ball well, I think the very modern phrase is he's very press resistant. i.e., he can look after a football when someone's in his face. I mean, he can carry the ball as well. From what I've seen, he could, like a shuttle. He could take it off the back four and advance up the pitch with it. Can spread play. Just so that very modern central midfielder that we've probably many Burnley fans have probably quipped that he's the type we've been needing since John Deary, and we never replaced John Deary, did we? But no, he looks, when you look at the age and the fee, I mean, it looks like Chelsea have taken a small hit on him, but the sort of scattergun potential signings under Todd Bowley. But Southampton fans speak well of him, and he's another one. Like I say, Esteve seems to have had a hand in convincing him to come to the club or join the project, as is modern parlance. But I think he ticks all the boxes, and I'm excited to see him. He's an upgrade on Josh Laurent, isn't he? At the end of the day, he's probably an upgrade on Brownhill as well, to that extent, and maybe give Cullen the sort of protection that he can sort of dictate play and and the tempo of our football, and leave Hannibal to do what he does best, really, sort of causing mayhem with his shithousery and hopefully getting a few more assists and goals than he's used to.
Most modern Premier League teams have a strong physical presence in midfield, don't you? You think of like Decore, Everton and that kind of player. We've never had a player like that at all, have we, Woody? Do you think we missed that in our last Premier League campaign, that sort of physical side of midfield?
Well, we've missed it. We've missed it for longer than that. I mean, we've been calling out for this type of a profile player, haven't we? That kind of solid, as a Southampton fan on Twitter described him, is part brick shithouse and part workhorse, who can also carry the ball. And if you do watch his little highlight reels, he's got a little bit more about it. He can break up play, like Chris said. He can carry the ball a little bit. He's got a decent enough pass on him, and he's got enough motion for a lad who's 6'3", and it's like with Cullen in there, and we've seen in the Premier League past, even in the Championship last year, just trying to play Brownhill and Cullen we used to get overrun so easily because there wasn't that physical presence there. There wasn't that shield there. So that idea of him being able to play either as a 6 or an 8, a legitimate double pivot, our Scotty must be creaming himself, absolutely creaming himself. So no, I'm excited to. I think it's potentially a very good signing. Southampton fans like him. Chelsea fans seem to be a little bit shocked that they were letting him go. So and he seems bought in as well. So obviously he's going to get crocked between now and September.
You don't have to throw that in at the end.
February. Come on. Yeah.
I'm not sure about all this press resistance and double pivots and stuff. What's happening to this podcast? I don't know what's going on.
We're watching the wrong YouTube channels. That's what it is. It's Premier League, isn't it?
Yeah, but it does it does seem to give Parker the option of sticking with the same system, though, if he wants to, doesn't it? Because having two holding midfielders, as it were, I don't like that phrase either, really, because a player like that isn't a holding midfielder. He's more of a box-to-box presence, isn't he? But two defensive-minded midfielders behind somebody who roves attackingly, and then the wide players and a striker. That's basically what we played all last season, isn't it? Most of the time. Do you think that's what he's going to go for, Chris? We don't know yet, do we? But just guessing, do you think he'll stick with that sort of formation, or are we looking at something different? Do you reckon?
I would expect so. I mean, it's pretty much been that way in the public pre-season action that we've seen. It's not going to suddenly unfurl a back three on us, is it? At this stage, I've always thought. This is why we had this discussion. A lot of pre-season games should be behind closed doors. But I can remember sort of watching Eddie Howe teams and playing like in pre-season playing 3-4-3, 3-5-2, 4-4-2, 4. Just try all sorts of different. Surely that is your best time for trying this sort of thing in semi-competitive games. And where it doesn't really matter if you make mistakes or it don't work for you. You learn and you move on, sort of thing. But we've not really seen that. I think he is going to line up with your archetypal. He's basically got he's got two absolute flyers at fullback, which we've not really had before. Which you're going to have your two centre halves, your fullbacks bombing on, Cullen and Ugochukwu sort of can sit in, and you've got shuttle play. Like I've mentioned, Ugochukwu being he's capable of shuttling the ball. Hannibal can carry the ball distances. Breuer can carry the ball distances. You can play Anthony in over the top, and expect his touch to be excellent. Edwards can obviously drive with the ball. It's I'm quite excited to see it all. The first choice side when it's out there and seeing what it's capable of, because I don't think we'll be anywhere near as naive as we were under Company.
Oh no, yeah.
So with all the sort of shape and the system points towards us trying again to be hard to beat, but offering pace and creativity, and so hopefully the likes of Breuer and we can make us more of a goal threat.
We haven't had your thoughts on Breuer. What are your impressions of that as a signing? Yet to be fully confirmed, but looks like it's happening.
I'm sure everybody's said this, and it's like the word that's going round. It's like somebody who hasn't scored for God knows how long. It depends which version of Breuer you're getting, isn't it? If we're doing that Moneyball thing, we manage to rehabilitate him as a footballer, then I think he fits in perfectly to how Scotty Parker likes to play. Although why I'm calling him Scotty Parker all of a sudden, I've no idea. That more deep-lying kind of false number 9. He can also transition from deep. He's also a brick shit house and can be extremely physical, within transitional moments and all that kind of crap. You can hit it longer to him. He can play out right if needs be, and he can hold the ball. So potentially, even though he might not be what you'd consider a standard striker who's going to bang in 10 to 15 goals by any stretch, he's going to put himself about a bit. until he gets crocked within the first couple of weeks and we don't see
You've
him.
done it again. You've done it again, Woody.
Exactly. I'll do it with everybody.
It's pre-season. We're allowed to be wildly optimistic. I mean, looking at that starting 11, I did a little play around, just looking at the the back of the fag packet sort of starting 11 for the new season, and doesn't quite work with vape wrappers, but but going through it, this is what I came up with, and I'm open to obviously the debate on this. So I was thinking, and we'll get on to our new goalkeeper shortly, but presume he starts. Dubravka in goal. Walker, Twanzebe, Esteve, Hartman as the back four. And then in midfield, Ugochukwu, Cullen and Hannibal, unless we bring in somebody else in that position. Another topic for a little bit later. And then Edwards and Anthony out wide and Breuer at centre forward. That's what I think the starting 11 is probably looking at being at the moment. That does mean, of course, that Loom Chuana and Brun Larsen would start on the bench there as the wide options. Fleming, we don't think he's fit at the moment. There's also, obviously, Koleosho as a wide option as well. And Lucas will be done by, I think, to be left out at left back. But the squad has changed. What do you make of that, Chris? Do you think I've missed a few there, or what do you think?
No, I think that's pretty close based on what we've seen. That's it. We're not privy to the training sessions or necessarily all the fitness updates from all the squad. It sounds like a stuck record, but I'm still excited to see what Aaron Ramsey can bring, what Trezor can bring. Has Trezor been chipping in training? Has he been busting a gut? I mean, you see a couple of clips that he posts of it, of his own, the overhead shots of training where he produces magic moments. But we've waited 2 years now. We need to see this on a football pitch, and I don't know. Obviously, Anthony is a disciple of Parker. He thoroughly believes in him. So you would imagine it'd take a great deal to shake up those two as the wide options. But you mentioned those options. I said without Brun Larsen's coming to the mix, the lad from Lazio, Koleosho, Ramsey can play there, Trezor can play there, Foster can play there. As Woody said, Breuer can play there if need be. We've got, like we had last time out in the Premier League, an embarrassment of riches in the wide areas, but it's picking the right ones and getting the best out of them. But I think, barring, maybe there's a couple more to come in. I don't know. They've not used any loan signings up. That might be a canny market. And again, they've been linked with some interesting names. I mean, the Ericsson link seems to have been shut down, but I would have been largely in favour of that. He obviously knows Walker and Parker well from Tottenham. He don't really have the legs that he had a few years ago, but he's surrounded by Ugochukwu and Hannibal and the Cullens maybe, and it's his magic on the ball. We saw to our own cost what he was capable of at Brentford when he dragged them away from trouble. When we went down in 2022, and so it's another 3 years on. But was he only 33, Ericsson, something like that?
I think so, yeah.
I think he's still got a year or two in him, certainly. And he free signing, he's been based in the Northwest. It would seem a sensible one to me, but where they go with the loan moves, you'd like to. I mean, Parker seems to have great lines into his old clubs. There's maybe an exciting one to pull out the bag there, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 2 loans, Woody. I mean, looking at that starting 11 that I outlined there, 2 loans. I mean, you're allowed 4 players over the year, but only 2 at one given time, right? So we could bring 2 in for the first half of the season if we wanted to not do season-long loans. Although most of them seem to be season-long loans these days, don't they? But what would you be looking at with those? I mean, they're almost like, your joker cards, aren't they, these loan deals now, especially when you've gone and actually bought a few players like we have. And it gives you the opportunity to sign players who you might not be able to sign on a permanent deal. So that, I mean, I think Ericsson might be possible permanent deal from what the reports said. He turned down Wrexham as well, which suggests he wants to stay at the top flight. Where would you be looking to bring in those sort of joker cards, Woody?
I think you're either looking at additional proven quality and experience, so somebody like an Eriksen, or maybe additional backup with the midfield, because we could still be a little bit scarce in that department if we're not careful. But like we said, once you start listing up top, there's a lot of permutations, isn't there? We look like we may still be a little bit short in the striking department. Depends what Tuanzebe can do and how fit Bear is and centre halves and whatnot. But I think you're just wanting to try and improve, because I like the balance of this squad in terms of experience, age, etc. It feels kind of right. Kind of feels like what we've been talking about for quite a while. It seems like either somebody's been listening or somebody knows ball or whatever. But it just feels like we just need that, maybe another additional Premier League type cherry on top.
I think you've got to look at it when you assembling these squads. You've got to think which injuries would hurt you the most. If somebody were ruled out for 6 months, and I look at it and I think if Cullen were out, and I'm not saying Cullen's the best player in the side, what's your midfield look like without Cullen? You're suddenly asking Lesley to come in and be the man who organises and holds the midfield together, and then who's alongside it? And you're talking about Ramsey then being a starter and having to come in with Hannibal. That doesn't feel like as suddenly quite as solid a midfield, does it? So I think that number 6 position might be one that to look at midfield wise.
Still short up front for me. I say if Broya suffers a setback, or you're down to, I say we presume that Fleming's going to be used as a centre forward, because he wasn't used as anything other than by Parker when he was available last season. But I'd still like to see another body in that area. But I mean, I'm just chucking names off the top of my head now. Don't read anything into it. But like Calvin Phillips hasn't gone anywhere, has he?
No.
You're looking at the players who's not going to get a kick at their club, who wants to play Premier League football, and who might be, based on the fact that he was at a club that got relegated last year on loan, it might be in your in your dimension, so to speak. Because obviously the likes of Grealish and people like that. You're talking about Harvey Elliott looks like he's going to move, but we are nowhere. We're a million miles from competing in those markets. But a Calvin Phillips might make sense unless Leeds pull his heartstrings and come calling. But just off the top of my head, I'm not quite sure in that department. But there's got to be. Like I say, I would prefer it to be from that end of the scale rather than a young kid who's coming for a bit of experience from an elite Premier League club.
Yeah, it does feel like to me that we're giving ourselves a chance though with these sort of signings. They do feel the right sort of signings, But I agree with you about the striker, because Broya, with those injury question marks over him, you'd want a backup to him, wouldn't you? Even if you're bringing him in at 20-odd million and he's going to be your first choice striker, if your backup is your backup Lyle Foster then, or Fleming, obviously. I mean, I think Fleming, we're talking about Fleming now like he's a fringe player or something. He was absolutely essential to our championship season last year and could absolutely set the Premier League on fire. I think he's a fantastic player. But does he want to play him at centre forward? We always get told his proper position is as a number 10, really. And there is space in that formation maybe for him to play behind Broya. We don't know. I mean, that's what's so interesting about this time of year, isn't it? Why it's so exciting. We do sort of know who's going to be in goal, though. I mean, Dubravka coming in, 36 years of age. That ends any discussion, really, about whether Weiss or Hladky were going to get a chance. I think he's clearly come in to be number 1, hasn't he? Coming in from Newcastle on a 1-year deal. your impressions of that one, Chris? I mean, he's 2018. He's been at Newcastle a good 7 years. You know, he's got plenty of Premier League experience, hasn't he?
Absolutely. It's another one that I like it. You know, yeah, he is sort of 36 or so, but I go back to the sort of the succession planning that Burnley have done so well at largely for 10 years. You know, like sort of, you know, you look at your strikers, and you lost Fletcher, and you know Iwelumo came in and did a job, and then Jay came of age, and then you know you signed Ings and Vokes and Austin, and sell Austin and Vokes and Ings come, you know, do ever so well, and so on and so forth. And the goalkeeping department in particular has been hugely impressive. But it's like the Heaton and Pope scenario, isn't it? I think you know, selling Trafford, you know, get some money in the bank. Obviously, Vice has been brought in as his long-term successor, but he's coming to a new country, a new league, not making the mistakes of last time and chucking Trafford in far too early. He's going to give Vice a year or so to look at it, to work under a talented group. You know, I like he's had his moments. He's done well at in Ipswich before coming here. And Vice is going to work with Dubravka, Ladke. I mean, you presume sort of Green or Ladke might move on, but you know, work hard, be ready, like Pope was when he came in, and Tom Eaton was very much number one, and even after Pope had come in, you know, Sean Dyche brought Paul Robinson in as experienced backup, and you know, Robinson got a few games, but learning off that quality, that when Tom picked up his injury the start of the following season, he was ready to roll. And we got to hope that sort of, you know, that plan, you know, it's that pathway, isn't it now for Vice? You can you can sit on the bench and see the pace of it, the atmosphere, the hard work that it takes, and come a year's time, hopefully he can display all the potential that they've seen, and bring that out of him.
Play the odd Carabao Cup game, maybe an FA Cup tie, that kind of thing. Yeah. Woody, I mean, 36-year-old keeper coming in on a 1-year contract. It's we haven't done anything like that for quite a while, have we? I mean, Joe Hart was younger than that when he came in, wasn't he? And you know, it's a while since we've had that sort of stopgap keeper like this. But,
Wayne Hennessy.
Yeah. I knew you'd come up with one. But what do you make of it, Woody?
He could wind up being as arguably our smartest signing this season, especially for $2 million as a stopgap, because it's required. You weren't going to spunk another 25 million on an untested lad, were you? And he's also not the kind of, you know, aging keeper who's just been like sat at the sidelines. He's had decent chunks of time for the past few seasons as backup to Nick Pope, you know, in a relatively successful Newcastle side. So I think it's spot on. To be fair, that level of experience at a relatively cheap price, all told. So, yeah, best of luck to the fella.
Yeah, might see him in action on Saturday, either in person or on television or virtually. It's going to be interesting, that Lazio game. What do you think, Chris? Are we going to see? We always hope in these games we're going to see a sort of preview of what the Premier League side is going to look like. But should we expect to see a starting 11 and read some things into it?
I think barring any knocks and niggles, I think it might well be close to what we've suggested, and then maybe they give way after 45 minutes or an hour, depending on the sort of you know, what the minutes spreadsheet tells Scott Parker who needs what, sort of thing. That I'm looking forward to it. I'm in the Jimmy Mac on Saturday with both of my lads, and that's it. Look, there's a few tickets left, but it's the days of Burnley landing a pre-season friendly against Lazio. It's like, you know, imagine that 25 years ago.
Yeah.
It'd just be, but
Why?
Well, it's like in the Jimmy Mullen episode where people talked about the Ajax game.
Yeah.
That was so special because we never had anything like it, had we? As a pre-season friendly in our lifetimes. But now it feels like you're almost a bit blasé, aren't we, really? Oh, you're playing Lazio in a pre-season friendly. Yeah. I mean, Woody, do you think this is a game where we will get some strong indications of what to expect at Tottenham, though, or is this going to be another training session?
It's probably going to be a little bit of both, isn't it? Because he's got to see. We're going to see at some point something like the starting 11 against Tottenham, because they've got to play together at some point, haven't they? It can't just all be behind closed doors. So we're going to see the likes of hopefully the side that we've mentioned. But he's also going to obviously try some his backup options and all that kind of business. But it's going to be an interesting one to watch, I think, because it's going to be nice to see how this side works together as a very new unit. And like I say, against Lazio, once of a day would have been a ridiculous thing to consider, and now feels a little bit more like Old Trafford Ducks back, doesn't it? We feel like we're in amongst that sort of elite, as it were. So,
yeah, I mean, you think of Lazio, Chris. To me, and we were discussing this off air, weren't we? We were like, to me, Lazio is one of the clubs that you identify more strongly with that Channel 4 James Richardson Saturday morning show, Golazzo, and the time obviously Paul Gascoigne was there, but around that period of time, for probably a decade or so, Lazio were one of the top teams in Europe, weren't they? I mean, they had some fantastic players.
I see you go back to those. I mean, I didn't have a Sky subscription. I mean, at the start of the Premier League, I mean, I didn't want to watch that shower on my TV. And I watched a lot of Italian football because it was free on Channel 4. But it was prime time, wasn't it? Our top players were going over there. Your Des Walkers and David Platts, Gascoigne, as we mentioned. Everyone. I mean, how many people have that Banco di Roma Umbro strip because of Gascoigne? Yeah. And you throw let's say Alan Box each into the mix. Aaron Vinter was another one of their overseas players. Could they have three overseas players each at the time?
They could. Yeah, they expanded it a bit, didn't they?
Yeah. And then you see you Signori
Oh.
Take the casing off of football back in the day, hit it that hard, and Kaziragi and people like that, and so you got to I think they were turn of the millennium. They were like the biggest spending football club in world football. When Ericsson was there, and Veron and Crespo's, and Marcelo Salas. Yeah. They were. So the big Portuguese lad at the centre half at the back.
Fernando Couto.
Couto, yeah. Nesta, who's like one of my favourite players at the time, and they were just top side, weren't they? And see,
Fruitsy in goal, wasn't it? That QB keeper.
I won all sorts with those buggers with Lazio in Championship Manager Italia around that time. Absolutely pissed it.
Christian Vieira was there, wasn't he, at one stage?
Yeah, exactly.
Not for long. I think he went through a spell of playing for about 5 clubs in 5 years, did Vieira? But yeah, he had a very strong year with Lazio before he went to Inter. Yeah. No, they were a fantastic team then. Sergio Cragnotti was the president who financed it all, and then when he had his downfall, the club sort of suffered with it, really. But some fantastic footballers, great heritage there, and the atmosphere used to be at the Olimpico. For all the problems in that one section of the ground with a particularly unpleasant bunch, but the rest of the stadium, the atmosphere was fantastic.
I hope we're not going to get a Hanover 96 situation at the weekend.
Be interesting to see if any travel, won't it? Be interesting to see. You would think there's that many Italian lads working in London now. You'd think there'd be some come up from London for that game. There's so many Italian lads working in bars and restaurants in London and stuff, isn't there?
Oh, there's bound to be. Like I said, they'll have the sort of club that'll have global support, isn't it? So have they played Roma are playing Everton, aren't they, the same day, which might make life interesting. But
yeah, you could have ultras clashing at Piccadilly, Italian ultras. Yeah. That's an interesting idea.
We're full of 50-something-year-old like fat blokes with ill-fitting, 30-odd-year-old Banca di Roma shirts with, the thing peeling off and the belly just protruding underneath. That'll be the look. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting one. Well, we'll look forward to that, and we'll be back on Monday to review it all. And maybe if Woody can pull out from one of them drawers just behind him there, find some little headset that he can stick on, and we can give you the review of the VR side. If not, we'll just review the action and talk about the experience on Turf Moor as well. A chance to see some of these new faces that have been coming in through the door. First game at Turf Moor for Kyle Walker as well. That's going to be, a nice element to it all as well. Looking forward to it. Until then, up the Clarets.